That's a little much. How about... Good evening and welcome to the Padded Room Podcast. I am your host. My name is Darian. I am back for another episode, if you can believe that shit. It's been a full week, inmates, and it's been a crazy fucking week. It's a solo show, by the way. Surprise, bitches, it's just me. Nobody. There's nobody here except for me. Don't know what to tell you. That's what you got. Buddy, maybe back next week. Let's hope. If not, then it'll just be me again. It'll be me and you, as usual. Everything's cool, though. I think he just had something come up at work. Hopefully, like I said, he'll show next week. Other than that, it's been a crazy fucking week, dude. I can't get into it, but other than to say some shit went down at the office, and I had to work a few double shifts. That is miserable. That is a miserable thing, especially if you don't know that you're working a double shift when you go in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Because that's 16 hours, and I'm a salaried employee, so I only get paid for 8 regardless. But, you know, if I do that, then I just take the next day off. It's a whole fucking thing. I don't want to get into it. It's just going to piss me off, and it's a mess. But I'm slowly sifting through the wreckage of my... excuse for a career, and I think I'm going to be okay eventually. Hopefully that's what I'm hoping for. Is that hopefully at some point I will be okay. How you guys doing? Everything cool over there? I hope so. Better than over here, I hope. Well, enough about me. I got dude, it's like 93 degrees out right now in Reno. Are you anybody in a cooler area that I can come visit for a while? It is too goddamn hot. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Darian, you live in a desert. You should be used to this by now. Number one, Reno is not technically in the desert. It's in the upper Sierras, so do some geography, asshole. All right. Number two, I'm more of a all seasons character type of a guy. You know what I mean? I need a winter, a fall, a spring. I don't think it's even technically summer yet. It's already 93 degrees. Normally about this time of year we're getting some rain, and I don't think we've had any yet. If we did, it didn't last long enough for me to fully cool off. So any day with the rain is any day, any second now. I would love to have a little just to. God, dude, it's way too hot, and it's a dry heat too, which makes it even worse. I don't know. Does it make it worse, or would it rather be humid? I don't know. I'm just very uncomfortable, and I'm going to complain about it. All right, enough about me, goddammit. I got a horror show to get into here, fuckers. I got listener mail. I got horror news. I got all the stuff that I always do. But you know what? I don't need Buddy. I'll just do it myself. I'll just do the whole goddamn thing by myself. How about that? Well, not like I have a choice in the matter. All right, how about we kick things off with a little horror news like we usually do about this time.
Horror news.
Yes, ma'am, or sir, or whatever you identify as. I got a few things to talk about here. Trailers are up, finally, for Alien Romulus. They're pretty ambiguous. I'll tell you that. I watched them. I don't want to give anything away if you haven't seen them, or if you were really looking forward to them or something. You don't see much in the trailer that's out. I'll say that. It's very dark. It looks very bleak. You can tell it's Fede Alvarez. It's got that dark, bleak Fede Alvarez kind of undertone to it. So I'm gonna watch it. Of course, I like Alien. Not so much on the Promethean, but I like it. I'm excited. I'm going to say I'm excited for this. I'll probably try to round somebody up to go see it with me in the movie theater, but I know my wife's not, so put that right out of your head. I'm excited. Yeah, let's check it out, dude. It looks good. No release date yet, but the trailer, I'm going to give the trailer a thumbs up. More good news. The first Omen is now streaming on Hulu. This news brought to you by our friend Jason Harrell in Tennessee, the son of a bitch. I'm going to try and check that out within the week. I heard good things. I'm not big into the Omen franchise. The first one was pretty solid, but really, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of like Final Destination, but with a creepy kid and a dog hanging around. And then you get the whole thing with the jackal and stuff. Second one was pretty cool with Sam Neill. That's where he's like the Antichrist, and he's or no, that was the third one, dude. Second one was the one with Lance Henriksen, where he's in the army camp. That one was all right. At least like some people. I mean, still, everybody that gets killed is just a series of unfortunate events. So, is it really like devil work, or is it just poor workplace safety conditions? I don't know, man. But I heard good things about this. It's a prequel. It's on Hulu right now. At some point this week, I'm going to try to make room for it. What else we got here? Season 5 of The Boys is about to hit Amazon. It's been confirmed that this is going to be the final season of The Boys. I need to catch up on The Boys. I saw the first season, really dug it. After that, I just didn't. One of these days I'll do it. I don't know. So yeah, I'm hoping for like a Boys box set to come out at some point so that I could buy it and then of course not watch it, because that's how I like to roll. I like to buy shit that's going to look good on a shelf, and there it sits probably until I'm dead in the ground and my son comes and throws it away, I think is what would happen with a Boys box set. But it'll look good up there for a couple, 6-7 years. Let's see here. Looks like HBO Max is in development for a Conjuring TV series. Oh, Daddy, I don't know about this. I mean, historically, HBO Max has always done really good TV series, so we got that to look forward to. But I kind of feel like the Conjuring universe is getting a little watered down. You know what I'm saying? Those Nun movies, not all that great. 2 out of the 3 Annabelle movies, not that hot. The Conjuring movies themselves, like the basic Conjurings, they're okay. I mean, the first one was pretty good. Second one was pretty good. Third one, I wasn't mad at it, but, I don't know. Wasn't the best thing ever, right? But now we're, dipping and diving through all these different storylines and trying to create this continuous, expansive universe going into history, and the fucking nun showing up everywhere, dropping all these Easter eggs and shit. I like the idea of a horror, expansive universe. I don't know. I just the quality of movies is going down, and I don't see. Maybe the TV show will bring it back up. I don't know. Let's see what happens. I'm going to reserve judgment on that. Lastly, it looks like The Strangers Chapter 1 is going to hit VOD this week. Mixed reviews, this thing. I haven't seen it yet, obviously. I don't know that I want to pay for it just yet. Because if it's going straight to VOD, and if you want to watch it like tonight, you're going to have to pay like $25 for a rental. That's a bit pricey for a movie that, I haven't heard the best things about. I'm not going to say it's terrible, but it's getting mixed reviews. And, I don't know. Yeah, you know what? I'm sure it's going to hit like a Peacock or a Paramount Plus at some point. So I'm going to tell you to chill out. okay? I know you're all excited for Strangers Chapter 1. I'm going to tell you to cool your jets, give it like a month, and I'm sure it's going to pop up somewhere where you don't have to pay $25 for a rental, and a digital rental at that. That's kind of sucks, man. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of this digital rental business because, like, in the old days, you went to Blockbuster, you rented it, $6, $7. You keep it. Maybe you get to it, maybe you don't. If you don't, you just keep it another day and pay the late fee. But this digital stuff, it just vanishes from your TV, which is why you got to get physical media, bros. I'm telling you. I'm telling you that right. Okay, I'm going to get off my soapbox here. That's all I got on the horror news, dudes. I think it's time for some listener mail.
Listener mail.
Yes, sir. No emails this week. We do have a voicemail or two here. Let's see what we got. So this first one actually came in right smack in the middle of last week's show. Let's go ahead and play it for you now, though. Here comes Mr. Tom Hardy.
Hey-yo.
Hey-yo.
How's my favorite degenerates this week?
What's going on, Tom
do it
Hardy?
Again. Am I fucking late again? My
You are.
Apologies. I got to get better at this.
Oh, you're fine.
Anyway, let me get in real quick there. Got no idea who you are on the educating department.
Okay.
As far as what are you looking at, I did get to catch the, was it 2007, 8, 9, 10, something like that, that movie Ouija.
Yeah, that sucks.
I think fucking sucks, man. Again,
yeah, that's a bad movie.
Really appreciate Witchboard, doesn't it? All right, so anyway.
I'm with, I can see that.
Not the Terror Dome, the Meat Hooks.
Yeah.
I really did some thinking on this one here.
Which,
right?
Tara Reid.
And first, number 2 and number 3 were kind of interchangeable.
Okay.
But then when I give you my logic for, why number 2 beat out number 3, you'll completely understand. So anyway, here we go.
Okay.
Number 3.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Darian.
Wow.
I mean, I know we say it a lot, but I really think you've earned it this time.
What the hell did I do?
I just really think that was important. Number 2, of course, fuck you, buddy.
Yeah,
Again,
that makes more sense.
It was your idea to do Tara Reid.
That was his idea, by the way.
That makes sense that you would beat Buddy out. And then everybody for number 1, come on, say it with me. Fuck you.
Fuck me?
Meat Hook for Tara Reid flick. God damn, we're scraping the bottom of the barrel.
He said
anyway,
it.
Hope all is well. Love you like family. I'm going to try and do better about getting in on time. I'll talk to you soon.
Don't
Bye.
worry about it. Love you too, Tom Hardy. Thanks for calling in last week, buddy. Tara Reid flicks. I can't. The only 3 that I could think of that I have actually seen are the 3 that I put on my meat hook, and that was nothing good. That was Mummy Dearest, Alone in the Dark, and Urban Legend, and that's it. And Mummy Dearest was terrible. She was in it for all of a minute and a half. I think she had 1 line of dialogue. What else? Alone in the Dark. It's a Uwe Boll movie. Uwe, whatever the fuck his name is. It's somehow loosely based on a video game. It's got Christian Slater and Steven Dorff in it. All right? And this, if I remember right, it's from like 2001, so it is just a fistful of CGI crammed right up your keister. And then number 1, of course, the only movie with any redeemable quality to it was Urban Legend. It wasn't that great either, but in comparison, it really stands out in the Tara Reid catalog, I would say. Right on, Tom Hardy. Thank you for calling in last week. Who else we got here? It's our main man in Alabama. Alan.
Adam, what's up?
What's up, dude?
Everybody's well. Hope Buddy finally gets paid.
Me too.
So, Meat Hook.
Yeah.
Number 3.
What you got?
I'm going to go with the Monster Club.
Okay.
Number 2, I'm going to go with the Prowler.
Okay.
And number 1 is Evil Dead.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Darian, Are You the Woman? And for Terror Dome, they're actually fighting each other. If he hasn't already been picked, I want Dracula.
You got him.
If Dracula's already spoken for, then I want Art the Clown.
Nope, you got Dracula.
That's all I got. Hope you're all doing good. Talk to you later. Bye.
Beautiful. Thanks for calling in, Alan. I'm going to put you down for Dracula. Art the Clown is still available. And we are going into the arena tonight, inmates. Alan with Dracula. You got it, amigo. You are locked in. And that is all we have on listener mail. Thank you very much, Tom Hardy and Alan. The Terror Dome is still wide open, inmates. Who do we have removed so far? We've got Tim has taken the Predator. Jason Harrell has Jason Voorhees. Buddy has Pyramid Head. I have the Creeper. And Alan now has Dracula. First fight is tonight. I don't think nobody's horse is fighting tonight, so we are good there. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I got a movie to talk about. Oh, boy.
Look out! Look out! Look out! Take care. You are being watched. We repeat, take care, for you are now alone with a killer. We warn you, don't let him see the fear in your eyes. For this is what he seeks, and this is why he kills.
Where are you? Where are you?
Look out for Carl Byrne as the Peeping Tom. Fear him, but pity him also.
It's no good.
Watch out for Moira Shearer as the lovely stand-in who innocently dances into danger.
Imagine someone coming towards you who wants to kill you, regardless of consequences.
A madman?
Yes.
Wait!
Anna Massey is the girl who falls victim to the charms of the lonely stranger upstairs.
Switch it off, Mark! Mark, switch it off!
Maxine Audley as the blind woman who senses the danger that threatens her and her daughter, but is helpless.
Don't be frightened.
Not frightened. Hot. So put that camera away!
There is no future for anyone who tries to befriend him. He invades the privacy of innocent people till the piercing eyes of his camera meet the terrified eyes of his victims. And with a compulsion akin to madness, he shoots the final, fearful scene.
Yeah, buddy, it is Peeping Tom from 1960. This one got 7.6 stars on IMDb. Directed by Michael Powell, written by Leo Marks, stars Carl Boehm, Anna Massey, and Moira Shearer. This movie is not rated. Highly controversial when it came out. This movie only lasted 5 days in British cinemas before it was pulled due to impropriety, dear boy, you see, and intensity also. So, I get it. This movie's from 1960. It's a different time. You couldn't show stuff like this back then. These days, you see shit like this on Saturday morning just before Power Rangers. It's considered quaint by today's standards. Also, one of Martin Scorsese's favorite films, Peeping Tom. A lot of people give this movie credit for starting the slasher subgenre. I don't know why we would call this a slasher. It's a good show, I'll tell you that. I don't really consider it a horror movie. More of like a psychological thriller, I would say. I don't know. It's before my time. I'll say that. It's vaunted by many to be a classic. I think it's fine. I'll just put that out there right now. Let's jump right in, shall we? We're in London, I believe, or somewhere in England, and we start off with a POV cam. And you can tell it's a POV cam because it's got the crosshairs in the middle, and that's how you know that you're looking through somebody else's camera. And this dude is trolling, my friends. He's looking for love in all the wrong places, if you understand what I'm saying. And I think you do. He's looking for a prostitute, is what I'm trying to say. He finds one, fairly attractive young lady, but apparently it's a slow night because she just looks him up and down and says, £2 then. And then there's like a little nod of the camera, and then the camera follows her up to a very shady London flop house, I assume. Gets up to her room, they close the door, she begins to undress, and then she's like, oh dear, what is that? What have you got there? What are you doing? Oh no, no closer, don't come closer. And then she screams, and then that's pretty much the end of the scene. We have to assume that our friend has, whoever he is, has murdered this young prostitute. A couple of things. Post-World War II economy in England. If the prostitutes are only charging £2, quote unquote, which I assume is close to $1 for services rendered, it must have been a lot worse over there than I had previously anticipated. I mean, these days, like, you go to the bunny ranch, dude, from what I understand, you're down at least $500 to get your knob polished. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I hear. Anyway, we cut to the next day, or possibly later I believe the next morning, actually. We're right back in POV camera with the crosshairs, and now we are filming, I assume, what has to be the police investigation of the murder of the previous prostitute. And this is where we're going to find out who's behind the camera. It's a very Aryan young man by the name of Mark, and he's got the German accent and everything. Which brings up another question I have for historical reference. Do you suppose Germans had a hard time in England after World War II? Because this guy seems to be getting along quite well. I get it, it's 1960. It's been 15 years since the end of the war, but I don't know. Some food for thought there, I guess. Anyway, he's running around with his camera, blonde hair, platinum blonde hair, blue eyes, German accent, everything that you would assume a right creeper would have. And he's running around and he's filming the police as they're bringing out the body and, watching them go into and out of the building. And eventually somebody grabs him and they're like, hey, oh, you're filming, huh? What newspaper are you with? And he's like, what? I don't, newspaper? Oh, I'm with the Observer, which is obviously bullshit. From there, he films a lot of this, then he goes to what I assume is some kind of it's a very strange little store that they have in England in 1960. It's got smut, which is great. Apparently it was cool to put like full smut on the outside of the store, like in the windows, so you're walking by and there's just like pictures of naked chicks. I'll tell you what, if a 9-year-old Darian happened upon that store, I would be walking back and forth for hours in front of it. But you go in and there's like news. It's like a newsstand kind of a deal on the inside. He goes in there. Apparently, this is like a frequent establishment for him. And upstairs is a photo studio, which is run by the sleazy guy who operates the smut shop downstairs. So there's a photo studio upstairs, which Mark uses from time to time. He goes up there, and there's a couple of models there waiting for him. We have Millie, and we have Catherine. Now, if you watch this scene closely, you'll notice that Catherine only appears in profile for 90% of the scene, and there's a reason for that. We'll get to that in a second. Millie is a very attractive young lady. She's telling us about how she's got all these boyfriends, and her fiancé found out about them, and that's a big problem, and all this other shit. She's a bit of a hussy. So there's that. But she's very attractive, very bombshell-esque. he takes he's got like a bunch of backdrops, and he takes some picture and some video, and he's talking to Catherine as he's taking pictures of Millie, and apparently he's never photographed Catherine before or even met her, because finally towards the end of the scene, she turns to face Mark, and this is where we realize that she has this horrendous hair lip, and that's pretty gnarly. It's not attractive, and it looks like she put lipstick on it to like make it look even worse. And she's like, "Hey, how do you like me now? You can see that I've got a hair lip." And he's like, "Oh dear, I would like to photograph you in your entirety." Very weird. She's kind of a bitch, Catherine. But regardless, this is non-consequential to any of this. Yet. We will get back to Millie and Catherine here in a few minutes. From there, we get like a little bit of Mark's personal life. He's a bit of I guess a hermit in certain ways. He would remind you of what we consider today to be incels, right? But at the same time, if he wasn't like murdering people, he does very well with the ladies, as we'll get into here in a second. But at the same time, he's just so socially awkward. And I don't know if like it's just his German accent that makes him feel socially awkward, or he is socially awkward. He's got the camera on him at all times. And he's constantly filming, just like walking to and from work, and filming as he's going into his apartment building, which he also owns. And all of this very random just stuff. And he's telling people that he's making a documentary about what he never actually says. So now we find out that Mark actually has a job at a prominent film studio here in London or wherever we're at. And he is behind the camera, and I think he does some editing also. And there's a film being made that involves a scene in a department store with a hot redhead fainting. And he's there, he's at work, and he's filming this, and the hot redhead can't seem to faint correctly, I guess, or to the liking of the director. So they're filming take after take after take after take, and Mark's behind the camera the whole time, but he's having a great time because he gets to film stuff. And everything's cool except for everybody's getting pissed off because they're tired of filming the same scene over and over again. At one point, the hot redhead's stand-in is a young lady named Vivian. Not the hot redhead, but her stand-in, which I don't know anything about the film industry. Apparently, when you get sick of fainting so many times, they use your stand-in to get the lighting correct or something like that. I don't know. Excuse me. The stand-in is also a hot redhead, which is great. And as they finally wrap for the day, after filming 57 takes of the redhead fainting, we find out that Mark and Vivian have a date that night, which is very cool. Sort of a date, but they are going to hook up later that night. So filming wraps, everybody goes home, and this is where things get a little weird because Vivian hides out in the studio as everybody's leaving. So the security guard's walking around, and she's ducking into closets and stuff to make sure he doesn't know that she's there. And after everybody finally peels out, Mark comes back in, and this is where we find out they're going to shoot this weird, I guess kind of a music video situation. I don't know what they were going for. I thought maybe a porno deal, but not really, no. But anyway, they get back into the set where they were filming the department store scene, and Mark breaks out the camera and starts rolling, and Vivian starts doing this weird interpretive dance to this hepcat jazz beat drum thing, and it's pretty wacky. I don't know if this is what people found sexy in 1960. I am going to say no, because number one, she's dressed like my grandma. Number two, this kind of spasmodic dance that she was doing, while it was very athletic and ballerina-esque in certain ways, it looked more like she was doing a karate kata than a dance. And she's flipping and rolling and kicking and spinning and doing weird stuff with her arms. Mark is filming her. He's having a great time. He's getting all this footage. Everything's pretty cool. And finally, he's like, okay, he's like setting the scene and moving the set around. Finally, he's like, okay, Viv, I'm ready to film you now. And she's like, okay, then, oh boy, what shall I do for you? And he's like, I want you to look terrified. Look as if a killer is approaching. And she's like, oh, a madman, you say? Oh, dear. And this is where, so Mark, like, we don't really get to see any of the kills, per se, till the end, or any of the dead bodies or anything, really, till the end. But now we cut to our POV cam, and Mark is, like, creeping up on her, and as he's doing it, she's, like, pretending to be scared, and he's, like, fondling his camera as he gets closer and closer, and then we cut to POV cam, and then you see Vivian going, what is that? What are you doing there? And then something happens, and she screams, and then that we cut, and we have to assume at this point that Mark has killed Vivian. Okay, fair enough. From there, we cut to Mark going home later that night. He lives in it's like a mansion, but he is letting out the rooms to different tenants. So he only lives like in the upstairs attic. There's like a couple of downstairs tenants and a couple of upstairs tenants, and he's got like his apartment with his little editing bay / development studio up there in the attic. So that's cool. As he's walking into the building, he owns the whole shit. We're going to find out in a second. He hears a party going on in one of the downstairs rooms, and he's like, okay, no problem. He starts walking up the stairs, and he gets accosted by this young redhead, another redhead, his new downstairs tenant, a young lady by the name of Helen. And Helen's like, oh, you're the upstairs neighbor. I've been meaning to introduce myself. I'm having a little birthday party down here. Why don't you go put your stuff away and come join us? And, of course, Mark is awkward as shit, so he's like, I wouldn't even dream of it. And she's like, oh, just come on. No, you go, all right. And she's like, no, okay, I'm not going to bother you. So he goes upstairs and goes about his developing his film for the day. And a second later, there's a knock on the door, and it's Helen, and she brought him a slice of birthday cake. So I guess as weird English 1960 society rules goes, if you show up at somebody's door with a slice of birthday cake, you must then let them in and divulge all of your family secrets, which is exactly what Mark does. He tells her that his dad owned the building, he owns it now. He helps, with his income by letting the rooms. And they all pay him rent. He is the landlord. That's great. He also has a regular job that makes pretty good money editing films and running a camera. And she's like, oh, yeah, that's great. You could tell Helen was wanting to get on Mark, which is great. He needs it, man. If anybody needs it, it's him. He's showing her around. He takes her into his little developing studio there, and she's like, oh, what were you working on? What's all the cameras for? And he's like, would you like to see it? And she's like, sure. And he puts on these old home movies of him as a kid. And this is where we find out, of course, that Mark was kind of tormented as a kid by his psychotherapist dad. Kind of like his dad was basically filming him on a regular basis to document his, if I'm understanding this correctly, to document his psychological growth and maturity. He was also subjecting him to certain experiments, which were pretty tame by today's. Like, there's the big shocking moment was Mark was asleep in bed as a little boy, and his dad threw a gecko lizard on the covers there, and the lizard started like creeping up on him, and Mark had a freak out. The lizard really just wanted to tell him how much he could save on car insurance. That's a terrible joke, and I apologize, and let's move on. But, like, it's not like he was, taking him out back and hitting him with 2x4s or anything. He was just kind of, like, scaring him every now and then. There's another scene where Mark finds a young couple making out in the bushes on the other side of his back fence. And like he makes Mark go up there and look at the couple making out, and then he films the couple making out for a while. Presumably, at some point, I don't know, things may have gotten a little dirty there. I don't know if the implication was that he went full molestardo on him, or if he just kind of knocked on the door of Molestardo. I don't know, man. It's a little weird. It's a little weird. And Helen's a little weirded out by it. She's like, okay, well, it was nice meeting you there, weird guy with the camera. I'm going to go ahead and show myself out. And as she's leaving, one of the downstairs neighbors knocks on Mark's door. And he's like, oh, I hate to bother you, old boy. Was there a redhead that happened upon your doorstep? And then out comes Helen, and she, oh, there you are, my dear. Well, your party guests are leaving. You should probably see them off. You could tell that the other downstairs neighbor is trying to get on Helen. Helen's trying to get on Mark. Mark's just being fucking Mark, so there's that. And we already have the makings of a bananas love triangle situation here. All right, that's gnarly stuff. Now we're going to cut to a couple days later. This is an hour and 40-minute movie, by the way, inmates. It gets a lot of psychological build-up and tension here. Now we cut to a couple of days later. There is a police detective who has linked the murder of the prostitute. We now have a missing girl with Vivian. She's gone. Nobody can find her. But she has been reported missing, and this detective, using Scotland Yard technology, has linked the two together somehow, and he's on the case. Couple of days after that, Mark's back at work at the film studio, and the director decides that he wants to add some comedy to the scene of the redhead fainting. Okay, fair enough. There's just a problem, though, and that's that we don't just know what Mark did with that dead body of Vivian, but when the slapstick falls are being rehearsed, there's a certain blue trunk still on the set, and every time somebody gets close to that blue trunk, Mark gets super nervous. Okay, we can do the math, right, inmates? Dead Vivian is probably chopped up in that blue trunk. Why would you leave her on the set? She's going to start to stink very soon, and people are going to get to wondering where that smell's coming from. And on top of that, you got to imagine these trunks are being moved in and out as part of set dressing. That's a dumb idea there, Mark, but whatever. Eventually, the pratfalls are happening, and the redhead keeps fainting over and over again. The director tells one of the stagehands that he wants more of the luggage kind of piled in one area so that when she falls, it knocks a bunch of them over. Great idea. The stagehand goes to move the blue trunk, and it's a lot heavier than it should be, because presumably they're all supposed to be empty. He pops it open, and sure as shit, everybody screams and freaks out. Now, we don't get to see the dead body of Vivian, and we never really got to see how she died, other than that she was presumably murdered by Mark. More on that in a second. All right, creepy stuff. Here comes the cop. Well, of course, the cops come, and Mark's all, oh, dear, what? I don't know where the dead body came from, you see. They start asking questions. Whole long, like 20-minute scene of them questioning all the other actors and actresses, and Mark going in there, and them asking why because he's filming the cops as they're doing this, fucking sicko, and he's getting like, there's a lot of scenes of him going back to his apartment and watching the footage that he just filmed of the police interrogating people and the police doing crime scene investigations and things like that. They question Mark, and he's like, I'm making a documentary, you see. And they're like, yeah, okay, so what's that all about? And then he lets them look at the camera, but he doesn't let them look at the footage. So they're like, checking out the camera. Unfortunately, a phone call comes in the middle of this interrogation, and it's the crime lab, and they've got an autopsy on Vivian. So they basically just kind of push Mark off and then go over to the lab to get the autopsy results. Okay, it makes sense as to how Scotland Yard police work may have happened in the 1960s. I have no idea. But Mark kind of gets overlooked because he's just this kind of mousy German dude, and he seems harmless. Little awkward, but, not very assertive, but a little bit of a weirdo. Not pretty, for the most part, harmless, though. All right, very cool. Now things are heating up because they're starting to wonder what the hell's going on. They kind of, our main detective guy is like, okay, what's going on with, nobody else can seem to put a finger on where Vivian went the night after they were in, wrapped shooting. The stage security guy didn't see her leave, so she might have just stayed here, and now her dead body's here, so who else would have had access to the stage after hours? And then we find out, I guess they got to sign in and out, but Mark never signed out that day. So now they're kind of getting a little curious about Mark. In the meantime, while all this is going on, we have a budding young romance happening between Mark and Helen. Helen keeps coming around. Mark's taking her out on like movie dates and stuff. They're kind of, she's kind of slowly but surely bringing him out of his shell. And there's hope there that he could be a normal goddamn human being for, a month or two without killing anybody. Not saying it's going to happen, but there is an outside possibility, and you kind of want to root for Mark at this point, despite the fact that he's killed 2 people, because, he's not a bad dude. Well, he is. He did. He is a bad dude. He killed a prostitute and a young starlet. So, yeah, I guess fuck him, but he seems like a nice guy, and Helen's really into him, so there's that. Him and Helen go out on a date. Very cool. I don't know what's going on with Helen's mom. So Helen lives downstairs with her mom, whom I believe is blind and an alcoholic. So we also have to kind of assume that she's Daredevil, because she can hear Mark's heartbeat when he enters the building, and she doesn't trust him because he walks too softly, I guess. And very strange. She allows Helen to go out with Mark, though. And then eventually, this part was particularly bananas to me. Mark drops Helen off, and then he goes upstairs to his film studio, and her mom is waiting for him in the dark in the film studio. And she's like, hello, Mark. And he's like, what the fuck are you doing in here? And she's like, I have a key. And how did you get a... What? I must have left it unlocked. No, you didn't. I'm blind. Okay, what the hell? I live in the dark, Mark. Okay, well... Still, how did you get in here? Very off-putting conversation, and it seemed to me that it kind of felt to me like Helen's mom went up there to fuck him. I'm going to be honest with you. There's a weird sexual tension in that scene. Maybe I've just seen too much MILF porn. I don't know, but it had a vibe, like a Bang Brothers vibe there for a second. I see you're dating my daughter. Let me inspect your penis. God damn it. Don't be dirty, Darian. Jesus. It's a weird scene. Basically, she says, look, man, you're kind of creepy. If you continue seeing my daughter, then we're going to move to another place. And he's like, oh, don't do that. And she's like, yeah, I don't want to because your rent is pretty cheap and Helen really likes you, but you just strike me as creepy, so I'd appreciate it if you didn't see her anymore. And then Mark is like, okay, I guess. And if you don't approve, then that's fine. You just tell Helen not to come up here anymore, and then that'll be that. Now, unfortunately, the detectives are back on the case, and they are officially looking at Mark as a possible suspect. So they have him followed, which kind of makes sense. They follow him to the apartment where he has this weird encounter with Mom. The next day, Mark goes back to that photo studio / smut shop that he has set up, where Millie is waiting for him upstairs for another, I guess, topless. It's a weird thing. Now, this is the controversial part of this movie, and this is what blew everybody's mind in 1960. So Mark goes up there, and he starts filming Millie, and Millie's telling him about how she's got all these boys, and, she doesn't want them finding out about each other because there's going to be a fucking bloodbath if there is. And, she's young and she's hot and she's having a good time, so more power to her. And Mark is going on about how she reminds him of his mother. And this is where we see the actual killing technique of Mark. And this is the controversial part too, because Millie's laying like on this daybed and she's, going on while Mark is setting up the cameras and the lights and everything. And then he starts doing that weirdo fondling the camera thing as he starts rolling on Millie. Millie's like, "What do you want me to do, Mark? Am I happy? Am I confused? Am I angry? How shall I look today?" And he's like, "I want you to look terrified, as if a killer is approaching and you are about to die." And she's like, "Ah?" And then we come out of POV cam, and this is a particularly dumb situation. So, I mean, it's not dumb. It's just, we're horror fans here, inmates. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong in that assumption. And as far as murder weapons / killing spree weapons go, this one is kind of silly because he gets these slow pan close-ups just before he kills the girls, and he's got his camera on a tripod. And he pops one of the tripod legs out so that it's like jutting out towards the girl, and then he takes the end off, and there's like a 4-inch blade at the end of one of the tripod legs. And then as he approaches, he just rams it right into her neck. In this case, he does the exact same fucking thing to Millie, except she's laying on the bed. He's doing his slow pan thing, and as the camera cuts around to the opposite side, Millie like takes her boobs out, and you get to see her boobs for like a second and a half. And it's not even a very clear shot because she's laying on her back, and I guess that was a huge deal in 1960. But you do get to see her boobs for a second and a half before Mark kills her, and that's pretty scary. Now, while that was going on, the guy that runs the smut shop downstairs had to step out for a second, and he gave Mark the key. So Mark kills Millie, leaves her body there, runs downstairs. He, at this point, knows he's being followed, so that's pretty creepy. The detective starts following him and walking. Mark goes back to his apartment. The detective follows him and hangs around just outside of his apartment. There's another detective kind of cruising down the street, and this is when the smut shopkeeper comes home, goes back to his shop, and finds the dead body of Millie upstairs, which causes a big freak out. Everybody goes running upstairs. Oh my God, it's a dead Millie with her boobs out. Very scary stuff. She's got a puncture wound in her neck. Very creepy. At this point, Mark, back at his apartment, is watching showing Helen one of his cut-up movies. Or actually, I think she just kind of turned it on. She bought him a book. That's what it was. She bought him a book, and she wanted to leave it in his apartment for him to surprise him. And then she got curious and hit the play button on his projector, which happened to be the film of him murdering Vivian. So she's watching this, and she's like, "Oh my God, it's crazy!" Mark walks in the middle of this, and she's like, "Oh my God, this is just a horror film you're making, right? You didn't actually kill this girl." And he's like, Yes, I did. Did you see the look of fear on her face? It was delightful." And she's like, "You're a killer, you crazy fucking." He's like, Yes, I am. Now at this point, the first detective, the one that's outside, calls the second detective, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, I followed him from the smut shop back to his house. He's got a girl up there. Everything seems cool right now." But the second detective is upstairs looking at the dead body of Millie, and he's like, "No, it's not cool, man. He killed a dead blonde up here with her boobs out. So we're gonna have to get him. Go up there and arrest him before he kills that girl too." At this point, Mark is like going on his "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die" rant with Helen, and he's talking about like the truth of his documentary, the fear in the girl's face, how his father brought this out of him, and now he's addicted to videoing everything, and he has to kill people. And Helen's like, "I'm gonna get up out of here," so she hauls ass. Mark like kicks the window out and starts filming the police as they're running into his building. And then he does a move where he's got his camera with the switchblade tripod, and he pops the blade leg out, and then he rams his neck into it and kills himself. Apparently, Helen found that very disturbing because she like goes and tries to save him, and then she holds his hand as he dies, and then the police come running in, and that's pretty much the end of your movie right there, inmates. That's Peeping Tom. I mean, it does feature a murderer. You got Mark, who's just this tormented dude who likes killing chicks and videotaping it. I get that. Very cool. But it was made in 1960, so like there's no blood, no gore. You do get some boobs for 2.5 seconds, and that was a big deal back then, apparently. It's fine. It's a lot more of a character study, I would say, than a horror film, because you're really getting into the psyche and the mind and the practices of Mark, who is the shut-in. But unfortunately, he's turning a leaf with Helen. Unfortunately, it's just as the police are catching on to him. So, on the one hand, you kind of want him to get caught because you know eventually he's going to end up killing Helen, despite the fact that he keeps saying he's not. On the other hand, you kind of feel bad for him, and you're kind of glad that he's coming out of his fucking attic apartment and trying to live like a life with a friend and have a relationship. So there's that too. It's fine. I wouldn't call it a horror movie. It's more of a psychological thriller. I wouldn't call it a slasher either. I would call it a psychological thriller. So that's where I'm at on it. It's considered by many to be like horror pedigree. It's worth a watch. I'll say it's worth a watch. If you haven't seen it yet, worth checking out. It's Peeping Tom from 1960. I found it's streaming right now on Tubi. It's got the 2.5 seconds of boobs in it, which was, I guess that little snippet right there was cut out of a lot of edits for theatrical release because, holy cow, boobs in 1960. Inconceivable, my friends. All right, I'm going to take myself a little break. I'll come back with some other stuff.
Bring your friends, it's fun to lose and to pretend she's overboard and self-assured.
inmates. If you like what you hear, head over to the Padded Room Facebook group and support us through the Patreon link with a small monthly donation. Check out the T-Villain link at paddedroom.podbean.com and grab some t-shirts. Thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of the show.
And I am back, ladies and gentlemen. Excuse me. Oh, well, I guess it's that time of the show. It's time for 3 on a Meat Hook.
Three on a Meat Hook.
This week's Meat Hook. Top 3 horror films of the 1960s. Now, that is a pretty good span of horror history right there, because we had a lot of different styles of movies being originated in that decade. So, without further ado, I'm going to give you my number 3, which kind of set the tone for Italian cinema and Italian horror, which later branched out into giallos and things like that. I'm talking about Black Sunday. Yeah, dude. What do you got? You got a witch. She resurrects a vampire to wreak havoc on what I assume is Eastern Europe, somewhere in the Balkans. And it's a very gothic horror film. Barbara Steele, of course, starring with Fulci, Mario Bava directing. Not his first film, but early in his career, very early. Great show. It starts with the persecution of the witch, the torture and resurrection of the vampire. They come back 100 years later. You've seen it. I know you have. Just the directing, that black and white gothic directing style of Bava really adds to the storytelling of the movie. I don't know what I'm trying to say here. It creates the atmosphere, I think, is what I'm getting at, just for the gothic element, and then it really hammers it home with the witchcraft and the vampire. You've got the damsel in distress, of course, and the foreigners that show up to try to save the small village. Great show all the way around. Really kicked the door open here in the United States for Italian filmmakers, I would say. And we all know what came after that. Then we get into the fucking zombie, the demons, all that shit. I'm not going to bore you with a history of Italian horror, but I feel like this one probably started it all off, at least here in the United States. What else we got here? Number 2. Now, you can't talk about 60s horror without mentioning the man, the myth, the legend, the horror god, Vincent Price, right? The meat and potatoes of his career happened within the 60s, especially in the horror subgenres. My personal favorite out of the Vincent Price 1960s films is going to be Mask of the Red Death, and that's my number 2. Great movie. Little wacky at the end there with the interpretive dance, but if you've seen it, you know just what a fucking prick he could be. Or he could portray, I guess I should say. I'm sure he was a nice man. But when his portrayal of Prince Prospero and the aristocratic upper crust of the region, as him and his friends think they're going to just weather the storm in his compound while the Red Death ravages the countryside. Of course, it doesn't go down that way. And I get what happened here, because, dude, it's the 1960s. We're kind of still riding the wave of psychedelics. The story itself, Mask of the Red Death by Edgar Allan Poe, is only about a page and a half long, man. And there's not a whole lot of there's Prospero, of course, and his dickface friends, and then the Red Death shows up at the masquerade as this personification of the Red Death itself. It's like this gauze-wrapped mummy, and it shows up and just wastes everybody at the party in very grotesque ways. Obviously, you're not going to show that in 1960. So instead, what you get is a psychedelic rainbow chamber situation of interpretive dance and multicolored ninjas. Because apparently at the end, there's a yellow death, a blue death, a green death. It's like a Skittles bag worth of different color-coded diseases, I guess. I don't know. Psychedelics, dude. That's all I can tell you. But Vincent Price's portrayal of Prince Prospero leading up to that point, fucking rock solid. Made him look like a real asshole, which is the way the character was intended to be. So I would say he succeeded there. And, of course, my number one from the 1960s. Anybody who knows me already knows what the answer is. It's, of course, Night of the Living Dead. I don't feel the need to extol the virtues of this film other than to say my favorite film of all time. Pretty much kickstarted the zombie subgenre, the zombie apocalypse subgenre. A lot of people will call this a quote-unquote important movie because it did a lot for the civil rights movement, got people talking about black heroes in films, black heroes saving white women. Little controversial when it came out. There was some stuff here that you didn't see. For example, a black man striking a white woman on film. Whole fucking shitstorm followed. Somehow slipped in. Well, I know how it did, but I'm not going to waste your time with a history lesson. It's public domain. It has been since the day it came out. It's absolutely free for what it's. I mean, it did make money for certain distributors, but by and large, George Romero and Latent Image didn't make any money off of this movie. But it did kickstart their careers, and George Romero went on to be George Romero, and that's a whole other story that I'm not going to bore you with, inmates. That's my top 3 horror films from the 1960s. Number 1, Night of the Living Dead. Number 2, Mask of the Red Death. And number 3, Black Sunday. I would love to hear what your top 3 movies of the 1960s are. Area code 775-387-0275 is the mental health hotline. Or you can hit me up. Just go to paddedroompodcast.com, drop me an email there, and I will read your replies on the next show. And I reserve the right to make fun of them also. So you're not getting around that. I'm probably, if you pick a shitty movie, I'm going to let you know. All right then, inmates. I think it's time to begin the 2024 Tara Dome tournament right now.
No tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
I'm not gonna hurt you. You didn't let me finish my sentence. I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. I'm gonna bash them right the fuck in. I'll kill you all. I'll drive you crazy. I'll kill you all. I'll be the greatest ever had. My worst dream come true.
6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face, with blackish eyes, the devil's eyes.
Welcome to the Tara Dome.
Here we are. We are going to kick things off in the Inferno Conference Round 1, inmates. As usual, bear with me, I am not a writer. He was running out of gas in more ways than one. His truck had been empty for the last 25 miles or so. His head was bobbing with each bump in the road, and his eyelids felt like they were made from smelted ship anchors. It had been at least a week since he had a decent night's sleep, and Ed had gotten the news that his beloved daughter Vicky had met an untimely demise. Vicky was his only daughter, and now she was gone. The Haddonfield Halloween Massacre is what the newspapers were calling it. 12 dead at the hands of some deranged mental patient that had come back for revenge on a long-lost cousin. Vicky had nothing to do with it, and now she was gone. But now it's Ed's turn for revenge. The trees in front of his truck part, revealing an old woman's cabin. Razorback Holler held a lot of secrets. The witch was one, vengeance was another. Singles competition, inmates, we have Pumpkinhead versus Michael Myers. Oh, it's a tough one. On the one hand, Michael Myers is believed to be evil incarnate. You can't seem to kill the son of a bitch, and that's a problem. On the other hand, Pumpkinhead is a full-on demon of vengeance. You can kill him, but you have to kind of kill yourself. Really, the guy that's made the deal can kill Pumpkinhead, and he's got to kind of seal the deal by killing himself and putting Pumpkinhead back in the ground. So, but I got to go with Michael Myers on this one. Now that I think about it, because I feel like if Myers can get to the summoner, which he probably can, because the summoner is still a human being, right? So, if Michael can't seem to be killed, is the thing. I'm taking Michael Myers on this one. I'm just going on the longevity, the stamina, I guess, the ability to, the fortitude, I guess is what I'm saying. The undeadness, if that's a thing, we never really found out what keeps Michael Myers ticking. I mean, there's that weird cult aspect that we touched on in The Curse of Michael Myers, but that's, if you want to subscribe to that theory, you're welcome to. I'm taking Michael Myers in this one. That is your Terror Dome matchup for the week, inmates, and the first Terror Dome matchup of 2024. It is Michael Myers versus Pumpkinhead. Get me your votes by next week. Again, mental health hotline, area code 775-387-0275. Email, paddedroompodcast.com. Let me know there. And I will tally the votes, and we'll see who wins next week. And now, while you're contemplating that matchup, it's time for me to tell you what movies I got to watch this week in a little segment called, What Are You Looking At, Motherfucker?
What are you looking at?
Well, with my schedule being blown to smithereens due to the work situation, I only got one movie in this week. It's called Dampier from 2022. Caught this baby on Netflix. It's Polish. It's a clear attempt to jumpstart a franchise. It's about vampires in Eastern Europe, and it's got a whole lot of underworld style things going on, aristocracies and things, witches. It's fine. It's nothing to write home about. Heavy on the CGI. Special effects are a little wacky. It does have the guy that was the governor from The Walking Dead. He's like the big bad vampire. And once you realize that's him, it's kind of hard to take him seriously as a vampire because you realize he's the governor. And you expect him to be like a sweet southern boy. But instead, he's trying to do a Eastern European accent thing. It's very weird. I'm going to tell you to skip it. It's not that great. I'll say it's not. If you're in the mood for some high vampire intrigue in Eastern Europe, then that might be a good way for you to go. Other than that, it's not that good. That's all I'm looking at, inmates. How about some immersion therapy?
Immersion therapy.
Did you get a chance to check out Before I Wake from 2016? Thomas Jane, a long-haired Thomas Jane, kind of weird looking. You know, one of the pet peeves that I have in horror films is when the victims have an easy out, but for whatever dipshit reason, they choose not to take it. And I kind of feel like this entire movie was just a long, drawn-out scooping of that. I think the worst example of that is the above-mentioned Pumpkinhead, where they decide they can't call the cops because their buddy Travis will go back to juvie. Your friends are being butchered in the woods by a giant demon, and you don't want to call help because you're afraid your buddy's going to go to juvie. There was some gunplay involved there, but it's neither here nor there. But what this entire Before I Wake is kind of a big scoop of that also, in that you got a kid. I get it. You feel bad for. He's a foster kid. You feel bad for him. You kind of fell in love with him. You care about him. But everything he dreams happens in real life, in real time. That's all well and good when it's just a butterfly infestation in your living room. But when the nightmares start, you got a fucking problem, and I gotta tell you, you're not qualified to deal with it. Get the kid to some kind of a sleep clinic or a secure facility for powerful dreamers, I guess. I don't know. But regardless, putting him up in the guest room is not going to help. And you're going to run into problems when he has nightmares. That should all be understood. I think that this, I'm not mad at this movie. It's definitely not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I think at the conceptual level, it's a bit flawed for that exact reason. Okay, it's fine. Like I said, it's weird seeing Thomas Jane with his with long hair. This movie actually was pulled from theaters. Not for any controversial reasons or anything like that. It was actually pirated too many times. And before it was actually released, people were already posting it and there were reviews out. So the studio just said, let's just go straight to VOD and see if it does any better there. I'm sure I think it had a limited theatrical run in certain markets, but I hate that when that happens. There's actually a pretty good movie that the exact same thing happened to it. It's a movie called Demonic with Frank Grillo and I believe Maria Bello is in it also. James Wan produced it. And exact same thing. It's actually not a bad show. That one's pretty good. But it never got a theatrical release because it just got leaked and pirated so many times. They're like, we're going to lose money if we put it in the theaters because nobody's going to see it because it's already out there. Everybody already watched it. That's actually a good show. I should probably track that down on Blu-ray. Anyway, I'm gonna tell you to probably go ahead and skip Before I Wake. It's fine. It's not the best thing I've ever seen, but there are some plot holes and some fundamental flaws here. Your immersion therapy for this week is going to be picked by me, since Buddy is not here. I give you Inheritance from 2017. This bad guy is streaming on Tubi. It's directed by Tyler Savage and stars Chase Joliet and Sarah Montez. I actually watched this one a couple weeks ago. You might remember me talking about it in the What Are You Looking At segment. I think you guys will dig this. It's got some pretty solid, creepy elements about, it's about a guy that inherits a house from his biological father, despite the fact that he was adopted. He didn't know anything about his biological father. Once he gets there, the family history kind of lays out in front of him, and there's some pretty damning things there. But there's a whole creepy, supernatural element too. I think you guys will dig this one. Check it out. It's streaming on Tubi. I will do the same and we can compare notes next week. But now you must educate me.
Educating Miss Monica.
First, my clues from last week. Well, I am a picturesque suburban dad, and I have a seemingly perfect life with a obedient wife, a son that worships the ground that I walk on, and a teenage daughter who's a pretty good kid, despite her, she's going through a little bit of a rebellious streak right now. Everything is going swimmingly until I found a feral woman in the woods and decided to abduct her and chain her up in my woodshed. I am, of course, The Woman. Interesting movie. Pollyanna McIntosh in it, naked, I believe, the entire time, as I recall. Angela Bettis plays the wife. It's a Larry Fessenden jam, but it takes place in the same universe as a previous movie called The Offspring. And I don't think there's been any more movies. It's a Lucky McKee movie. I don't think he's done anything else with that expanded universe or whatever that they were working on. Not a bad show. A little rapey at times. Some weird stuff goes down. Obviously, the woman gets loose and wreaks havoc on the suburban family, as we are kind of hoping she does, because there's some abuse happening within the family. As you watch the movie, you'll get acquainted with that. But who might I be this week is the question on your mind. Well, my friends, I am a member of a 1960s British biker gang, which you wouldn't think was really happening in the 1960s in England. But yeah, that's what we're doing. It's about 6 or 8 of us. We're all pretty tough dudes, and the local constables are on to us. And we're kids. We're having fun and stuff. Everything's pretty cool until one of us decides to commit suicide. The fucking asshole. And then a couple of days later, he just pops back up, and he's good. And he's now not really a zombie biker, but he is dead, and now he's back alive. So, I mean, he's not alive because he's still dead, but he's up and riding his bike around and stuff. So now we have like a undead. And now he's convincing us to commit suicide also, so that we can come back and basically be undead biker gang is what he wants to do. We also have some very interesting helmets, which, to be honest with you, I don't know how they could ride their bikes with those helmets on and still see stuff, but that's neither here nor there. Who might I be, you asking, mates? Tune in next week and I will drop some knowledge on you. In the meantime, I'm afraid that's about going to do it for me this week. Thank you very much for bearing with me during another solo show and for tuning in at all, really. Like, comment, subscribe if you have time wherever you found this show. That'll help our visibility. We do have a Patreon campaign running. All kinds of swag and stuff that we can send you. Just go to paddedroompodcast.com, hit the Patreon link. Also have an Amazon link if you feel like doing some shopping. Also have links to various other pictures of me in states of undress. They're not. If you want to see what I look like with my shirt off, it's not actually me. It's just my face being photoshopped onto. Is this guy named Tony? He's got free time on his hands. It's neither here nor there. Anyway, check it out if you're interested. PaddedRoomPodcast.com. Join me next week for The Intruder here in Slasher Month in the Padded Room. Other than that, for Buddy and Absentia, bananas biker gangs in England in the 1960s, 1960s horror in general, Peeping Toms, 2.5 seconds of tits in 1960, which will get you in a lot of trouble, apparently. And the Padded Room Podcast. I'm afraid visiting hours are over.
Why are spiders so smart? They can find anything on the web.